Okay, for my engineer design class, I want to do a real quick video here on basically starting the creation of the base of my gear car. Specifically, kind of getting the base in there, the wheel holders, how to bring my wheels in and create my axles, and start getting the basic foundation of the car done based upon the sketching that we did before we left for school or left for the coronavirus stuff. And so what I want to do is I'm going to basically pull mine up from last year. I was going to basically create last year a fire truck. So here's an image of a sketch I did last year. That was what our intention was going to be after the spring break, was to draw these in detail. And as you can see right now, this is basically the base I want to go with. Now, how do I determine my gear ratios? Again, I went through all these calculations and things of that nature. That was the intention of what we were going to do when we got back. However, because of where we are in this situation, I want you to come up with your own gear ratio. And I'm going to actually send you some links. I'm going to go through some examples of other videos showing you how to calculate a gear ratio in the end. So you can come up with one that's somewhere between a gear ratio of 30-to-1 and 60-to-1. That would be what the target would be, or that I would like to see. In the case of this one, I believe I'm at 60-to-1, but I'll verify that when I do some calculations. But I'm going to use this sketch to begin designing the basis of my gear car. Okay, and I'm going to start by basically creating the main base. And the main base is going to be this piece that you see here that is currently 12 inches long. Okay, now I'm again using basswood. We don't have a basswood choice in our wood, so I'm probably going to put balsa on it. But I'm going to basically create a 12-inch long piece that is, and this is not good dimensioning, I should have put my dimensions on here, but this is a 3-inch piece right here. So I'm just going to create a 12x3 rectangle, and I'm going to extrude it 1/4 of an inch and add my balsa material. Okay, now in this case, what I'm going to do is go into Solidworks. I started the new part. In this case, I started in inches since I'm in imperial units. That's what we've been working with in this model. And so I'm going to start from a top plane here. And I'm just going to simply take a corner rectangle. Now again, this is our own design, excuse me there. So it doesn't matter if you do a center rectangle. It really doesn't matter to me. I'm not asking for your mass unless you want to calculate it. I'm not asking for your center mass. This is not a CSWA, CSWP type problem. This is more, let's try to take some of the knowledge that we've done over the last couple of years and let's put it into a product that we can be really proud of. Okay, so I'm just going to attach a rectangle to my origin, draw it like so, and I'm going to dimension that rectangle to a length of 12 inches and a height of 3 inches. Okay, real simple. I'm going to go in here to my features toolbar. I'm going to go into Extruded Boss Base. And I'm just going to extrude. I don't care if you go up, down, mid-plane. It's up to you what you want to do direction-wise. But I am going to make this the 1/4 inch basswood. Okay, that was the material I bought for the base. 1/8 inches for the body or the outside trim. Okay, so the 1/4 inch should be all the basic stuff where I'm going to attach my gears, the base of the car, and my wheels. Okay, everything else will be 1/8 inch. Now in this case, I'm going to hit my check mark. I'm going to take, and it says right here materials, and I've got that. That's fine and dandy. But I'm going to go in here and just look and see real quickly. You know, do my balsa again, or you can do pine. I've done pine before. I just want you to give it a look of wood. Okay, just real simple. Makes it look like the real piece of wood. Okay. Now I'm going to save these parts. Obviously, we're going to have to come back into an assembly. Truthfully, I could start showing you in context, but it'd be a lot easier if we're doing that in class. Right now, I'm just going to go ahead and build my pieces. And then I'm going to assemble them as necessary and show you some things you can do to edit things and so forth, okay? So, in this case, what I'm going to do is go ahead and save this. I'm going to save this to, I'm going to create a folder on my desktop. I'm going to call it Gear Car. You see I have a lot of parts. I've been trying to do stuff for my other classes. Do a folder, Gear Car 2020. Oops, forgot the word car. And say, oops, open, oh, sorry, hold on here. I'm going to open that up, and I'm going to save this as Gear Car Base. And save. Okay? Now, that's piece number 1. So let's go back to my drawing. So I've got this main piece drawn. Real easy. All right, now in this case, based upon my drawing, my wheels are going to be underneath the body. or underneath the base. Now you could put some wheel holders on top and put your wheels to the top. That would let it sit lower to the ground. That's what I did on the Chevy truck I showed you, the lowrider. Okay, I put the wheels above so the truck would sit lower to the ground. All right. In this case, I want this more 4x4-ish, or in the case of like a fire truck, I want to elevate it up a little bit. So I'm going to put the pieces of wood underneath. Okay, now I don't have a side shot of this. I'm going to go ahead and thinking about this clearly. You got to remember that the axle we're using right here is an 1/8 inch. All right, and one of the things you got to be careful of is if you make your piece that's going to hold that axle too small, and we cut a little 1/8 inch hole in there, you want to make sure it's strong enough that it won't break through the hole. All right, so what I like to do is at least keep 1/8 of an inch above it, 1/8 of an inch below it. That way I know it's secure. Okay, so if I'm thinking mathematically, that's 1/8 plus 1/8 plus 1/8, that's 3/8 of material. Okay, so I'm going to make a base or a piece that's 3 inches tall, or 3/8 of an inch tall. And I'm going to make this thing, basically, this is 2 inches to the middle. I'm going to make it 3 inches long. Okay, so that should get me somewhere, about 1 inch over here. That should give me plenty of material. And the way I'm going to glue this is where the front of that wheel holder is going to be flush with this surface. Okay, so it's going to be really easy in my assembly mode. Now, obviously, I'm going to need 4 of these. Okay, in this case, I'm only going to create one part. Obviously, then I can drag 4 into the assembly. All right, so I'm going to put that plan into action. 3/8 inch tall by 3 inch long piece, and I'm going to put an 1/8 inch hole 2 inches from the front surface. Okay, so that way I can get my axle in there. All right, so let's go put that into plan. So going into here, I'm going to do a file new. And again, your plan is going to be your plan. I'm just doing the one I have. Hopefully most of you are getting this down and are being very creative. I'm going to do inches and say okay. In this case, I'm going to start from a front plane. Again, I'm going to use a rectangle tool. I'm going to simply draw a corner rectangle. I'm going to make that corner rectangle 3/8 inches tall. Okay, and if you're not sure what that is, you can do 3 divided by 8. Hopefully most of you know that's 0.375. And I'm going to make the length of it 3 inches. You do 2.5. And again, if I was making this for real, I'd probably try to lighten the weight up a little bit. I'd probably cut it down to 2.5, just to make sure that I'm cutting as much grams off I can to make the motor work less. Okay, but I'm going to stay with a 3 inch. It's just easy. Okay, and at this point, I'm going to go in features and do an extrusion. Now, the extrusion, again, I don't care which direction you go, but I am going to make this out of the base material, which is 1/4 inch thick. I'm going to hit my check mark. Now, to keep my base or my material consistent, I'm going to go to Edit. I'm going to go down to Pine, Apply, and Close. So it looks like a piece of wood. Okay, now I'm not quite done yet. I got one more step. I'm going to go to the side piece right here. Okay, I'm going to do a sketch. Start a new sketch, spacebar normal 2. And I'm going to take a hole or a circle and put it somewhere out here. About 2 inches is what I want to do. 2 inches away from the front. I want this hole to be the same size as my axle. And in most cases, you want to make it a little bit bigger, but with a laser, it burns material. So usually if you do 0.125, it's going to take some of that material away. So your axle should spin freely, but be snug enough in there that it's not going to be like sloppy and bouncing. Okay, so I'm going to put a 0.125 for 1/8. And then I'm basically going to take here to here, and I'm going to do 0.375 and divide it in half so that this hole sits right in the middle of my part. From here, I'm going to go to Features, Extruded Cut. I'm going to do a Through All, and check. And this gives you now a wheel holder. All right, so I'm going to save this piece. I'm going to do a File Save As. I'm going to save this into my Gear Car 2020 folder. I'm going to call this wheel holder and save. Okay, so now going back to this. Now I know this dotted line shows I had a piece going all the way along here, and that was kind of the original plan. But looking at material and the amount of material being used, in addition, the amount of weight, I'm going to go ahead and keep those pieces a little bit shorter. Okay. Now, at that point, I'm going to call this pretty good, okay? Yes, there's a cutout here, but I'm going to show you later on in another video how I go in here and bring my motor in and begin to manipulate my base to make everything fit, okay? What I want to start with is just the basics, and then we're going to come back later as we begin to do our assembly, and we'll modify the parts as we go, okay? Now, with that being said, here's what I'm going to do. Okay, I'm going to go ahead. I've got my base, got my wheel holders. I'm going to go ahead and start thinking about my axles here. Okay, I'm going to draw a front axle because it's a little bit shorter, and you can see by the picture, it's a little bit shorter than this back axle. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and figure this out mathematically. All right, now, I'm still missing some of my dimensions, so I'm going to kind of make some things up a little bit. Kind of calculate in my head. I know the wheels I'm using are the 3-inch wheels that I originally created. Now your wheels, you want to think about the inside of those holes. Okay, my holes don't go all the way through because I'm using the original Kelvin wheels I showed you in class as a demo. Okay, those are 0.625, 5/8 of an inch inside. So each hole to get my axle in there is 5/8. Okay, so 5/8 plus 5/8. All right. Hopefully most of you know that's 10/8. All right. Simple math. 10/8. If you reduce that down, okay, gives you 1 2/8, which is 1 1/4. Okay, so that's going to be 1 1/4 plus, I'm going to have 3 inches here for the board. So that's 4 1/4. And then I want to leave about an 1/8 inch gap on both sides so that my wheels can spin. I don't want them rubbing against the side. Okay, so I'm going to add another quarter. So I said 4 1/4 plus another quarter. I'm going to make the front one 4 1/2 inches long. Hopefully that made sense what I said there. But most of you are high-level math. I'm pretty sure it will make sense. So I'm going to go in here to my Solidworks. I'm going to start with a file new. I'm going to go into metric. Okay. Start on the front plane with a new sketch. And I'm just going to draw a simple little circle at the center. Then I'm going to dimension to 0.125, and then I'm going to extrude that 4 1/2 inches. Okay, now I'm going to do this one from a midplane. It will help a little bit. Honestly, you don't have to because we can use a concentric mate to get it in the hole. Then we can use distance mates to get things where they exactly need to be. And that's fine. It doesn't matter if you go there. It's whatever way you want to figure this out. I'm going to do a midplane here. I'm going to do 4.5, check, and I'm going to make this piece out of copper. That's basically a copper rod. Okay, so I'm going to go down to here to copper, and then I'm going to do a file, save as, and in my gear car folder, I'm going to put this as wheel axle front, and hit save. Okay, now going back to my picture, I got to figure out the back axle. Okay, so in this case, the back axle, a little bit more. This one here is about instead of an 1/8, I think this is 3/8 of an inch based on both sides. Okay, so I got 1 1/4 to get it inside the wheels. Okay, so 1 1/4, 3/8 plus 3/8 is another 0.75. So 1 1/4 and 0.75 is 2. And then the board itself is 3. So 2 plus 3 is a 5-inch long piece. Okay, so I'm going to do quickly I could do a file new. I could also modify this wheel axle if I wanted to. It doesn't matter. But I'm going to go in here to start a new part. Make it simple. Now again, if both your axles are the same, you're done. Just bring them into your assembly, 2 of them, and go to work from there. In my case, since mine are different, that's why I'm having to create 2 separate ones. Okay, again, on my front plane, I'm going to start a new sketch. I'm going to use a circle that's going to be an 1/8 inch, 0.125, and then I'm going to come into features, extrude, and I said 5, and I'm going to do a midplane and check. And then I'm going to come in here and change the material to copper. File, save as. Okay, file, save as, and I'm going to name this wheel axle rear, and save. Okay, so now again, if I'm looking at my drawing, I already have my wheels done, as you do too. You've already created your wheels. You don't have to worry about anything else to design here. So right now, I've got my base, I've got my wheel holders, I've got my axles, I've got my wheels, okay? In addition, you should have downloaded from Schoology the on-off switch I provided you, okay? If you did not do that, you need to get into your Schoology account, okay? And I'm gonna go to there right now, Schoology. I'm gonna go ahead and download that to my desktop by going into my course and 3B. Go to my remote learning, week 3. I'm going to come down, and I did not give you the attachments. Thank you, Eddie, for reminding me of that. Let me go back in here and add in. You can tell this has been a really hard couple weeks. I'm not going to lie to you. It's been very difficult trying to do this remote learning when you're trying to help kids on their computers from an email. Okay, so I'm not going to lie. It's been kind of frustrating. So going back to week 2, here's what I've got. Week 2, there was the motor mount, the motor shim, the switch assembly. These are actually assemblies, but I saved them as parts so you didn't have to worry about importing all the parts. If I try to give you the motor alone has like 70 pieces. That would have taken forever to load and have them get down to your computer because you would have to do it one by one. I could have created a zip folder. That may have worked also. But instead, what I did is I just went ahead and said, all right, switch assembly. I'm going to go ahead and save the file. I'm going to save it to my desktop in that folder. So I'm going to go to my desktop. I'm going to go to my Gear Car 2020 folder, and I want to save my switch assembly into that folder. Okay, now the reason I just did that is now I'm going to come back into SolidWorks. I'm going to do a file new. I'm going to go ahead and go to my tutorial tab and start a new assembly and say OK. All right, now if you want, you can come in here and go to the eye up here and turn on your origins, okay, coordinate systems or your origins, okay, so you can see it. I'm going to go ahead now and bring in my gear car base, and I'm just going to attach it right here to this origin. Okay, so the first piece is in. I'm going to insert my next component, which will be the wheel holder. Okay, I'm going to drop that right there. And then using my shortcut, I'm going to use my control key to drag a second one over to this side, a second or a third one over here. I will flip that around, and a fourth one back here. Oops, hold on, sorry. Okay, and a fourth one. These two have got to flip because I need the hole this way, opposite of these. So I'm going to do that right now. I'm going to go ahead and go to Move Component, Rotate, and I'm just going to rotate this around. It does not have to be perfect. I'm just going to go ahead and get these kind of in the ballpark of the orientation I want them. Okay, now at this point, I'm going to go back to this eye up here. I'm going to go ahead and turn my origins off so I can keep it a little clean. And if you want, you can go ahead and assemble these pieces right now. So let's go through that process, and I'll bring other parts in as we go. Okay, I'm going to take this top face right here and the bottom face here and get those to be coincident. I'm going to take this front face and make it flush with this front face, coincident. Then I'm going to take this front face and this side of my base and make those coincident. So now my wheel holder's right where I want it. Okay, doing the same on this side. I'm going to go through this process, 3 to each one, coincident to the bottom, the front of my wheel holder to the front of my car base, and then the side of the wheel holder flush with the side of the car base. Okay, same thing here. I'm going to take that. I know it's crooked, but we'll fix that when we get our mates involved. This front face coincident with that face, that turns it. This side flush with this side. And doing the same thing on this side. Take that face there, flush to there. This front face to that front face. And then this side flush to the side of the base. Turn my mate tool off, spacebar, isometric. So there are my 4 wheel holders. Okay, so you can start seeing the bases coming together. Go into insert components again at the top, and I'm going to go ahead and bring in my axle front. Now I'm going to go ahead and make the axle front this side. Okay, then I'm going to go ahead and insert a component for axle rear and bring that back to this side. All right, now again, couple things we can do. Okay, I got to think a little bit of math here. I'm going to do a couple things. Okay, I'm going to add a concentric mate into the hole to at least get the axle to be centered. But then I got to think of 0.5 or 5/8 inside plus another 8 is 6/8. So I'm going to do a distance mate from the end of my rod to the side of this piece, a distance of 5/8 plus 1/8, which is 3/4 of an inch. Okay, so let me go back into my SolidWorks, get back into my assembly, Control Tab. There's my assembly. Okay, so I'm going to take this right here and mate it to the inside of the hole. And then I'm going to take the end of this axle to the side, but I'm going to apply a distance mate. Okay, and you're going to have to, you see I'm in metric for some, that's what the default is, but we can still work with this. I'm going to do 0.75, and to tell it it's inches, IN. Enter. Okay, so now my front axle is nice and centered in that hole. Okay, same with the back. I'm going to hit the outside there to the inside of this hole. Check. I am then going to take this piece right here, and from here, now this one here, we got to go back and look at my model real quick. This one, I wanted 3/8 plus 5/8 is 8/8, which is 1. So I'm going to have a 1-inch distance there. That's 1 inch there with 3 in between. Okay, so I'm going to go back to my SolidWorks here, into my assembly. I'm going to add where's the end of it? Right there. Okay, oops, sorry here. Let me hit escape here real quick. Sorry. This face right here to that face. Oops, get back into my mate. Jumping from screens, I'm forgetting what I'm doing. And the distance will be, again, because we see metric there, I can still do this. 1 IN tells it go to inches. And check. So now going to my isometric, I have both axles in place. Okay, so next, I'm going to go ahead and insert the next components. I'm going to bring in my 3-inch wheel. Now, this is the wheel that you already created and submitted in. Okay, that's what I'll be checking off. You'll see grades going in soon. Bring your wheel in. This wheel I'm going to use is the one I pre-created. Okay, this is the one I would normally would have given you and ordered from Kelvin Electronics. In this case, I don't want to recreate one, so I'm just going to use the wheel I already have. You've already got yours. Bring those in, and then with a control key, I'm going to bring a second here, a third on this side, I have to rotate, and a fourth over here. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and do a quick move and rotate. Quick move and rotate, maybe. Get this again, rotate, and there we go. Okay, so there are my 4 wheels. So now I'm going to use my mate tool, and I'm going to get to the bottom of that hole right there. So I'm going to mate the bottom of this hole, which should be 5/8 inch in. Now yours may be different. Hopefully you remember that. Okay, if not, we can always come back in here and adjust the length of this. It's just an extrusion, and you can fix that. Okay, so there it is flush. Okay, so it's in the same spot, and then I'm going to take the axle here and mate it to the hole. Okay, so there is the first piece. All right, now we eventually can lock these together and make them spin together, which we will. We'll make these two lock to each other so they can spin in unison. Okay, so same thing on the other side. I'm going to go over here, hit that bottom face right there. I'm going to go ahead and flush it up with the end of my rod. Outside of the rod will be then flush with that hole, or concentric. Okay, now at this point I've got my 2 wheels on, but this one spins differently than this one. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to add a mate between the planes, the top planes of both of these, so they spin together, because that's what's going to happen for real life. So what I'm going to do is open this up and find my wheels. So here's one. I can see it by the orange box that goes around it. I will open that fly menu up. I'm going to say I want the top plane of that one. Find the other wheel, which is going to be this one here, the third one for me. It could be your second, I'm not sure. Open that one up. I'm going to make that one mate with the top plane of this one. And you'll see now the planes are locked to each other. So now if I spin one wheel, they are spinning together. Okay, and this is one of the things I'm going to be looking for in your final animation. And I'll put that video together later, but I want to see that your wheels are working together. Okay, I want this as realistic as possible. All right, continuing on. Let's add a couple more things. Okay. All right, I go into here. I'm going to mate it flush with the bottom of that hole. I'm going to take the inside of the hole and make it concentric with the rock. Okay. Slide over to this side, blow up on the inside of that hole there. Hit the bottom of this face right here, make the two flush. Outside of this, concentric with the hole. Okay, now again, at this point, this wheel spins opposite or by itself, so does this one. So now what I have to do is again lock their top planes together. So I'm going to look for the fly out menu here. And I'm going to figure out which one am I working with. Okay, so I'm going to start with this one because I see the orange box on the screen. Expand this and take the top plane of that wheel. It could be also your front or right. It's up to you, however you design yours. I'm going to find the other wheel, which is this one here, expand it and take its top plane. And now the two wheels are locked together. If I hit my check mark and close my mate tool, these two wheels are spinning together. Now the four of them do not have to spin together. I just want the pairs to spin. Okay, I just want these to spin together. If you would like to lock them so they all turn, especially with the same size wheels, you could. And what I mean by that is when I put my gear and motor on this, these wheels will spin with my gears. If you want to make this look realistic, I could also mate these wheels to these wheels so all four wheels will be spinning like it's actually driving in the animation. Okay, you're not required to do that. What I'm looking for is the back wheels to the gears or the front wheels to the gears, whichever you choose, are all spinning as one. Okay, right now, these are spinning together. These are spinning together. Okay, so far so good. All right, going back into my sketch, you can see now I have my four wheels on. Okay, I have my axles in, I have my axle holders, my base done. I'm going to bring in the switch. And then I'm also going to go back and download my collar. A collar keeps the axle from moving left to right. I'm going to put my four collars in. Okay, and then I'm going to call this first part done. Okay, until I start getting my motor and my gears put together. So I'm going to do that as a phase 2 film. Okay, right now I just want to get the base started. So I'm going to go ahead at this point, come back into my Solidworks. I'm going to go ahead and insert a component. I'm going to go browse for it. In my folder, I'm going to bring in my gear car switch. Okay, so there's my switch. Now again, depending on how you want to do this, what I'm going to be looking for as I grade these is a switch in a place that's easily accessible. I don't have to lift the body off. It's not a weird position where you'd have to do all these different things to turn it on or turn it off. As you saw in some of my examples of the cars I've shown you, I use this as kind of a holder to my body and made it kind of like a trailer hitch. I'm going to kind of do the same thing with this one. I like that method. It's just my choice. It's easy to turn on and turn off. I'm not having to lift the body off. It's easy access, and I'm not moving the car and getting off pathway when I'm driving it. All right. So in this case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a quick kind of rotate because I want to put this. I don't care if it's up or down, kind of like this. That looks good. And then I'm going to go ahead and turn my mate tool on, take the bottom base of that switch and make it flush with this. Okay, I'm going to go here and make this, maybe this front edge here, flush with this. Okay, so that kind of looks like this. And that looks pretty good right there. You could make it butt up to there. It's up to you how you make that look. And then what you can do is I'm actually going to take the switch. I don't know if I can get a front plane or if there's a plane in between. I think there is. Yes, there is. Hurrah. The front plane of the switch, I'm going to go ahead and mate that with a distance of 1.5 inches. And where did I come up with the 1.5? 3 divided by 2. I'm put it right in the middle of my part. Now, if you want to put it to a side, this is your design. Put it wherever you want. If you want to hug it right to the inside of this wheel holder, then put it there. Okay, this is just my plan. So I'm going to do a 1.5, and remember, I'm still showing millimeters. So I'm going to type in IN to tell it to do inches, and now my switch is dead center of my body, or my base. Okay, so there is that switch. All right, now what I also want to do real quick before I get off of this video is I would like to come in and make sure my axles can't slide left to right. So I'm going to bring in a collar, okay, a brass collar. What that will do is allow me to tighten it down and lock the wheels so they can't go left or right. To do that, I got to go back into Schoology. Okay, I'm going to go back into here, and I have here, oh, I did not add it in. Oh, I'm going to have to go and add it in. All right. In this case, I'll kind of cut it short on this one. I'll bring that one back in on the next one. Okay. And et cetera, et cetera. Okay, I'll bring some more stuff in here. I got at least my switch in there, and I'll bring the other pieces in. Okay. So going back into my SolidWorks here, there is my first part of my assembly. Okay, I'm just going to save this, and this assembly is going to be this gear car base. All right, I'm going to keep it as one, or you can call it the gear car assembly. It's up to you. I'm going to do it as a base, as a sub-assembly, which is what I'm going to call this one, gear car base sub-assembly, because I'm going to do a separate body later. I'm going to bring that in as a sub-assembly, and then the two combined will become the full assembly, if that makes sense. Okay, so I'm going to come up here and do a file save as. I'm going to come in here, and this is in that Gear Car 2020 folder. I'm going to call this Gear Car Base Sub Assembly. Okay, so that way I know it's just the beginnings of this. Okay. Now, at that point, I'm going to call this good. I want you to at least get to this point. I'm going to do another follow-up video here in a little bit, okay, showing you basically how to put these parts into a drawing, what I expect in the drawings, and I'll start sharing out those drawings. Okay, with that said, get to this point. If you want to continue on your own, I will be doing a follow-up video, putting the motor, the gears, after I show you how to figure out the gear ratio and teach about gear mates, how to modify your base to fit your gears, etc., and how to add an animation. Okay, with that said,